Gotta be honest with you, I actually really like today's gospel. Here's Jesus, the greatest lover that has ever walked on earth. And he is demanding what it seems like to be hate. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. What is going on? I was just hearing a commentator on this gospel earlier this week, and he was saying that this is a very challenging passage for all people, except for teenagers, right? Hey, mom and dad, check. Hate siblings, check. Hate my life, check. I'm just kidding. If you're a teenager, I hope you know I'm just teasing you. It's tough to be a teenager. I had a rough time when I was a teenager, so I'm just teasing you. But back to the passage, what is the deal about hating that Jesus seems to be demanding? How can the greatest lover demand hate? The word that is used here in the original Greek is the word miseo. And this word literally does mean hate. And so there's no way of getting around the word, trying to say, well, it actually means something else. No, that's what it means. It means hate. This is the word that Jesus chose to use. However, at the same time, we also have to pay attention to the way Jesus often likes to teach. So something that Jesus does with regularity is that he'll use hyperbole, an exaggeration of something, for the sake of driving a point home. For example, in Matthew chapter 5, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus will say, if your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Right? He's using this hyperbole. He doesn't mean this literally, because otherwise he would be contradicting himself with other things that he says. But he uses this strong language to drive home a point. Because if he had simply said, hey, if something causes you to sin, try to get rid of it or get rid of it, it doesn't really get to the radicality of what he's asking. It doesn't really communicate the message as strongly as if he does it in this more, when he uses this more strong, this stronger imagery, right? He really does communicate more deeply what he's asking. Well, something similar is happening in today's gospel. Jesus is, of course, not demanding that we have ill will upon those who are close to us. That would be completely contradictory to everything else that he said and did. But there is a specific reason why Jesus chose to use this word, hate. Think about it. If you come to Mass and you hear maybe from me, from the priest, hey, Jesus asks you to love God, Jesus, above your spouse and above your children and above everything else. You hear that, and what do you experience? You say, yeah, you're right, Father, that's a good thing for me to do. And that's it. But if you hear today's gospel, right, Jesus says to you, if anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. What do you experience when you hear that? It shocks you. What are you saying? What does that mean? That's intense. Well, that's precisely the point. You wouldn't feel a shock when we hear that we need to love Jesus above all things? It's because we're not understanding what he's actually asking of us. The radicality that he demands to really put him above all things. And Jesus knows this. He knows this. And so because he knows this, he chooses to use this very intense language, this hyperbole, so he can actually communicate the radicality of what it means to be his disciple. Being a disciple of Jesus demands everything, our whole life. Jesus cannot just be a part of our life, he has to become our life, everything. Not too long ago, I was talking with somebody, and they shared this image with me that I found insightful as to why perhaps sometimes we can't see with clarity what it means to love God above all things, Jesus above all things. So think of a world where you were born and you are taught to ride your bicycle with your hands, and everybody around you, I mean, when you see people riding bicycles, they're doing it with their hands. This is just the way people ride bicycles, right? And so you grew up, and this is what seems to be normal to you. And maybe every now and then you'll see somebody riding a bike with their feet, and you're like, well, that's weird. That's not how you're supposed to do it. That's odd. But obviously, a bike was designed to be ridden with our feet, right? With our legs, right? It's super inefficient to do it with our hands. Well, what if something similar is happening regarding our love of the Lord? What if we are born in a world that doesn't really understand what it means to put God above all things? And so we look around and we think, oh, this is what it looks like to love God above all things. And so we just think this is normal. And every now and then we'll see a person that seems to be going a little bit far, and we're like, oh, that's weird. That's not how you're supposed to love God above all things. That's not how everybody's doing it. But what if the demands of the gospel are greater than what we have realized? What if very few hearts actually understand what it means to love Jesus above all things? And so this is what Jesus is talking about today. And this is actually why I personally do love this gospel. I have blind spots. I'm still trying to understand the depths of what it means to love Jesus above absolutely everything, to have Him be my life. And so passages like this, challenge me to grow. They make me ask myself certain questions. Things like, Jesus, am I actually loving you above all other things? Or am I frequently just living for myself? Yeah, I do make you a part of my life. Yes, I do love you. Yes, I'm trying to give myself to you. But are you my everything? And I say that even as a priest because, yes, I practically live in the church. I do a lot of pious religious things, and I get to pray a lot. But I often notice in my heart ways in which I'm just living for myself, ways in which I'm putting myself first. And this is unfortunate and not good. Firstly and most importantly, because it's not what Jesus is asking of me, and so I'm not responding to what He's inviting me to, but also because by not putting Him first, absolutely above everything, I'm also missing out on deeper and greater joys that He wants to bestow upon me. Joys that can only come from intimacy with Him, and an intimacy that can only be gained if He truly is my everything. Y'all, we have to strive hard. We have to strive hard to make Jesus our everything, our life. This is going to look different for each one of you and for me, as a priest, if you're married, if you're a teenager, if you're young, if you're older, if you're retired, if you have children. It's going to look different. We have to strive hard to do it. And we're going to fail. We're going to fail doing it many times. And thank the Lord that He's so merciful and loving, that we have the sacrament of confession, where He bestows His mercy upon us when we repent. But we have to persevere in striving hard to make Jesus our absolute everything. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple.